if you're a unit commander out in the field and you're wondering when and where the next attack on your sector of the front line might be coming, they can help you to anticipate that kind of event with a timeline of up to 2 days in the future. But on a strategic level, the kind of grand sweep of war planning, they say that they can anticipate trends, let's say, or scenarios 4 to 6 months in advance.
So the use of artificial intelligence tech in warfare has long lagged behind the predictions, not least because militaries are a bit risk averse and have long procurement processes. One military contractor says it's helping NATO to protect enemy attacks. The Times correspondent Oliver Moody has been to meet the makers of this new system. He joins me now. Oliver, what is this system, and is it really a crystal ball?
Well, what it is fundamentally is a battlefield or intelligence management system. These are super common. They've been around for a few decades now. And the idea is basically that the modern battlefield is absolutely teeming with millions of data points. And what we have increasingly is a radical profusion of sensors and other kinds of information scraped together from every imaginable source, whether that's kind of social media or surveillance of cell phone traffic and emails, human intelligence sources, spy satellite feeds. And these are programs that tie all of these things together and try and visualize it in a way that allows a human commander or analyst to work out what's going on as quickly as possible. And that allows you to allocate scarce resources to where they're needed most. And the logical extension of that is, if you can analyze those trends in the present, why can't you extrapolate them into the future as well if you have a large enough data set to train the algorithm on? So this company, SensusQ in Estonia, has now taken that step. And what they claim is that at a tactical level, if you're a unit commander out in the field and you're wondering when and where the next attack on your sector of the front line might be coming, they can help you to anticipate that kind of event with a timeline of up to 2 days in the future. But on a strategic level, the kind of grand sweep of war planning, they say that they can anticipate trends, let's say, or scenarios 4 to 6 months in advance, which is a very kind of impressive and striking claim to make.
Incredibly striking. All of this data feeds into the algorithm, makes these predictions, which if they come true, would be incredibly useful for commanders. Has it been successful in the real world?
Well, they are extremely guarded in terms of what kind of predictions are being made, who they're making them for, and very specifically what kind of real world scenarios this has been used in. For obvious reasons, if you're the FSB or the GRU or indeed Chinese intelligence, this kind of information would be extremely valuable. I think you can judge it though by the fact that their clients, again, I can't say who they are for security reasons, but they do include a number of very serious Western security services and militaries. So I think it's reasonable to assume that they would not be making these claims and getting the contracts if they couldn't, at least to some degree, deliver on them.
There's all of this data floating around from drones, from wearable tech, the sort of stuff we all wear. What's been the holdup? Why hasn't this promise of this technology, why hasn't it come sooner?
It's a really good question. And the answer is, first of all, that before the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine, the data sets were pretty heterogeneous and piecemeal. You're talking about a very, very broad range of conflicts that Western militaries were either involved in or kind of advising on. If you think about, Iraq, Afghanistan, the Balkans, peacekeeping missions, it's very hard to tie those things together in a meaningful way. But also you run up against computational problems. You're trying to integrate lots of very, very different kinds of data, some of it visual, some of it audio or radar or text. You're trying to evaluate, are these text sources reliable? Is this crap that's being fed to me deliberately by the other side? And weaving all of that together quickly and then getting those insights approved by human analysts and then delivered to the people in the field in the time that they need to be able to act on them has been really tough. But what we have seen is that the full-scale invasion of Ukraine and the very, very close involvement, particularly of British and American military intelligence in helping the Ukrainians, has absolutely turbocharged these developments at the same time as AI has just become a lot more powerful and economical. So you're starting to get to a point where you can actually get these technologies out into the field in a useful way.
We often think about the US, France, maybe Israel are the big movers in military high-end equipment. Not so much Estonia. It's a tiny country in NATO, in Europe, of course, but bordering Russia. Why is Estonia why is this company in Estonia made this breakthrough? And how has the conflict, not far away in Ukraine, driven it?
Well, it's important, first of all, to point out that it's not just Estonia, right? The kind of one of the biggest European players in this sector, which has been around since the 80s, is Systematic, and they're based in Aarhus, in Denmark. So because this is essentially software, the kind of barriers to entry are number one, are you good at software? And number two, can you get your hands on relevant data? And the answer is basically the Estonians are exceedingly good at software. They have one of the most dynamic tech sectors and talent pools in Europe. You think about like Bolt or Skype was developed by Estonian engineers. And also they have very, very good intelligence services and a kind of small but extremely well-drilled military. And they've been taking part in every single Western coalition deployment that they could get into for the past 2 decades, because they want to demonstrate their worth to NATO and to deepen those alliances, particularly with the US, on which the existence of their country depends. So in this kind of context, there's every reason why the Estonians would be good at this stuff.
And so this Estonian company, SensusQ, they also say the tech could be useful off the battlefield, away from this war as well.
Right. I mean, if you think about this as a kind of more general machine learning algorithm, what is it doing? It's spotting the relationships between data points, and it is suggesting complex patterns in that data that a human analyst might not be able to see quickly or might not see at all, and then extrapolating them into the future. And the battlefield is the most kind of dramatic and exciting application for that kind of technology. But SensusQ can also and does also use it for things like detecting tax evasion or smugglers. So it's not just military intelligence that's interested in this kind of software. You could also see other kind of even financial intelligence agencies using it.
There's a horrible saying, militaries fight the next war with the tactics and techniques they learned from the last. What are the military commanders looking at? What do they hope for with this technology as it develops?
Well, if you're Estonia, you have basically one single scenario in mind, right? Which is you are next to a neighbor that has invaded your territory at least 40 times over the past millennium, if you go by what some Estonian historians tell you. And there is every reason for them to fear that it might do so again in the near future. Their intelligence services estimate that it could be sort of 3 to 5 years after some kind of ceasefire or at least a temporary halt to proceedings in Ukraine. So they have a pretty good idea of Russian military doctrine. They know what Russia's capabilities are. They know the kind of assets that NATO has on the ground in the Baltic states, including in Estonia. They know the kind of assets that NATO can get out there to the front line if it becomes a front line, and how quickly, more or less. So in terms of kind of planning for how this invasion might play out, they have most of the kind of starting preconditions that you would want in order to simulate these kind of scenarios with the software we're talking about.
Excellent. Oliver Moody, thank you very much for making some time for us today.